We're live now?
Yeah, so don't talk for a second.
You're talking.
All right, let's go to that one. Right, hello everybody. We are now live today, and today's a special one. As we posted earlier on, we're going to speak to Brian Halloran, the Mr. Dante from Clerks and Kevin Smith of USQ Movies, which is amazing. It's pretty cool. I'm quite stoked. I've got many friends that are very jealous this very day that the fact that we're going to get to speak to him today. Let's get straight into it. I'll pass you to Sean. Sean is with us today also, so that's also a special guest because the boss very rarely appears on these, so the boss is in today as well. So I will pass over to Sean, and Sean will do the introduction, and then we'll just get on to talk to Paul.
Go for it. Thank you, sir. Yeah, there was no chance I was missing this one. We are super grateful that Brian has taken the time today. He's absolutely awesome. I think we're privileged to say that we have him as a friend here, and really excited. Everyone who's in the chat today, if you have questions, feel free to throw them out there. We'll try our best to get to them. Without delaying it further, though, we have what I feel extremely grateful to say is a friend of ours, incredible quintessential part of the Clerks franchise, Brian O'Halloran. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
Cheers,
brother. Thank you for having me, gentlemen. Also, thank you for the wonderful swag. The Quick Stop Geeky jerseys are awesome. This is the newest edition with the Hicks. The Hicks name.
It's a good one. I don't even have one. I don't even have one of those yet. That's how it's good. Although they take forever to get to.
You guys got to do the Randall next.
Yeah, it's on the cards. I think I've done that one.
Andy lives in the Stone Age. It takes a long time for us to get packages to him.
It's called the English Royal Mail and Customs.
Are you excited that the NHL are bringing games over to England?
Yeah, it's cool. It's they did it years ago. They brought the Rangers and the Maple Leafs over, and they played at Alexander Palace, which is the shittiest little rink you've ever been to. It's awful. And but for NHL players, it's a small rink, so it's all right. But it's cool. But I went to one a few years ago. Years ago in Stockholm, and the Maple Leafs went over and played loads of the local teams out in Sweden. And it was absolutely murder. They just murdered these Swedish teams. It was hilarious. But we went to Stockholm for a weekend and got absolutely trashed. It was awesome.
It's the only time the Maple Leafs win anything.
is these days.
That's cruel.
I want to start by saying early happy birthday to Brian. It's Tuesday next week. Wednesday next week.
Wednesday,
right?
Yes, the 20th. December 20th is my birthday. I appreciate that. I'll be turning 54. I was going to say 34. That would be nice. I'll be turning 54. So I look forward to my birthday. It's fun. Tonight I'm having friends over the house. We're having like a little Christmas get together. I live up in the northern end of the Pocono Mountains in Pennsylvania, so people have to drive like 2 hours to get to me. But I like the seclusion; it's awesome. So the past couple of days, me and my girlfriend have been running around buying stuff, food, and getting the house ready, stuff like that. And so cool. It's nice. The season is nice. We had snow a couple of days up here. It's still on the ground out here, so it'll look really festive when people get here tomorrow. But usually when we get together close to my birthday, someone always eventually brings out the surprise birthday cake. So
looking forward to
Sean and I live in Canada, so we have snow already for sure.
Oh wow.
And I'm in the UK, so it's just rain and miserable all the time, so very rarely get snow.
I hear you. You know, all of my relatives are from Ireland, and I have relatives who live in the UK as well. So,
in
fact, I have family who live in Galway, and they got slammed now, like 2 storms within a 4-week period.
I'm kind of north of London, but we're quite inland, so we don't. When the storms hit the coast, we don't generally. We kind of get the tail end of it. It's like, oh my god, a storm! But then all the coast is like getting smashed with this massive storm. It's quite fun.
So thank you for the birthday wishes. I appreciate that.
So Brian, what are the plans for the birthday?
Oh, listen. When you get to 54, it's not like you're gonna go. We're gonna go to Vegas. No. You know, listen. A nice, well-cooked meal. A couple of maybe some cocktails that are very tasty and unique, and spending it with my girlfriend or any friends who want to hang out is usually the best for me. So that's probably what's in order for Wednesday. You know, that's the thing about having a birthday literally so close to Christmas is everything is like packed shopping wise, and everything restaurant wise, especially on the weekends, is always busy because people want to eat some food before having to go visit family, that kind of thing. So you never know. We'll see what happens. I always have a couple of friends who call my girlfriend and like, hey, do you want to do such and such? And usually my girlfriend goes, yeah, no, he probably won't want to do that. But I mean, there have been years where we've gone to a hockey game, we've gone to ice skating, or we went to a roller rink, or we've gone to Atlantic City, things like that. There have been birthdays like that, you know, for like the big ones, like the 40s, the 30s, the 50s, that kind of thing.
And I was asking, you've got that kind of in-between birthday, right? It's not exactly a milestone birthday. I have one coming up as well. So I'm almost trying to get some notes here.
Yeah, I mean, get it out of your system. When you're younger, do it all. Like, you know,
I said, I'm not young.
Me and Sean,
really?
me and Sean are the same age.
All right. Okay.
Same year.
No, I
said my age. Come on. Where you at?
I'm 46.
I got 45 coming up next year.
Oh, look at the kid in the corner.
Right.
We're all in the same neighborhood.
Oh, somebody's hiding.
46. Yeah, once you hit 40, that's when certain moves you go, ow.
Oh yeah.
Ow. What's that about? And then by your 50s, you're like, why did I walk in this room? What did I come in here for again? Oh, right. You know, and it takes you a second. And, you know, even like we talked before the show when we were setting up the Zoom about, you know, doing a lot of conventions. And I do. I've been, you know, leading up to Clerks 3, we did a lot of conventions. When Clerks 3 came out since last year, we've been doing some more. We brought Jeff finally out to the convention scene. And there's a lot of young people who go to conventions, obviously, a lot of young guests, a lot of young fans. And then they always want to go, hey, we're going to do, you know, we're going to go to this bar for drinks, and we're going to go to this. And you usually fly in on a Thursday, fly home on either the Sunday night or the Monday morning. And when you get to my age, you kind of enjoy, you know what, I'd like to be in my room by like 12:30, the latest.
Exactly. That's exactly
right. There's nothing more enjoyable right now than getting a really good sleep. And I say that because Shatner's not going to invite us up to his suite and sing Rocket Man to us. You know, nobody from the Star Wars world's like, hey, we're going to George Lucas's private plane. Like, none of that shit's going to happen during a convention, so stop it. Like, my good friend Ming Chen, if you know Ming Chen from the Comic Book Men series, he was also in Clerks 3, facing off against me in the movie on the hockey scene. When he goes to the cons, he goes out and stays out late, like, all the time, and doing drinking and stuff like that. And I seriously don't know how this dude does.
He's like 15, though, isn't he? He's only like 15.
Yeah, he looks it. He's only like maybe about 10 years younger than me, maybe. But he goes out and does these like almost like these unofficial pub crawls. And
is he like Dorian Gray?
Like he has 3 livers.
Yeah. It's like Dorian Gray, just nothing affects him. He just his portrait
so
in his
weird. And God love him, he's always away. Like he does like tons and tons of conventions. And I always joke, and I've said this to him directly, so don't be like, ooh. But I say, let me ask you something. When you come home, does your kid go, Mommy, that man's here again? Because you're rarely home. And he's a good guy, but he has a liver, an iron liver. I don't know how he does it.
Crazy stuff. So we do. All of us have questions, I think.
Sure, do it.
So we'll fire through some questions. Do you want to go first, John? Or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll ask the first one.
Go on then.
So this is one Andy talked about earlier, but I've had it for a while. So why do you think that Kevin Smith and his friends like to see you suffer so much? Because in every movie that he's done, when you're in it, you always have the suffering role. Randall has walked through every movie without getting a paper cut, but in the original Clerks, he wanted to have you murdered at the end. In Clerks 2, you go through a lot of crap. You get kicked in the balls, you punch a statue, all the worst stuff. Clerks 3 is a heart attack and then death. Like, you go through all the worst things. You get murdered in Dogma.
Brian Johnson wrote his movie Vulgar,
Yes,
and
I was good. That's the next one.
I get assaulted there.
In Vulgar, that was written for you. So Brian Johnson was like, I really want to see this guy suffer even more. That is the most haunting movie I think I've ever seen, and I've seen Human Centipede. And Vulgar
John,
still
you watch on repeat, don't you, John? Human Centipede.
They clearly like to see you suffer.
Well, you know what it is? I think Human Centipede, I think people think that seriously can never happen. But what happens in Vulgar,
That could
definitely could happen. It definitely can happen. And it happens to people. So that being that said, first of all, I think it's an honor, and not an honor as much as I think they trust me with the work to carry heavy loads when it comes to acting. Personally,
nobody suffers better than Brian O'Halloran.
Well, no one could portray it and be believable than Brian O'Halloran, I would think. And that's what it could look. This could be me just fooling myself and saying that. But at the same time, those dudes, as much as they like to torture me cinematically, I think some of those are the better written roles. And it is what it is. I'm free of it now, so technically. Unless we come back as a Force Ghost, which that's what I said. Is if I'm coming back.
There's like 7 Hicks cousins, so he could make one of the other Hickses suffer.
True, we are going to be doing a Mallrats 2, from what I understand, in about a year or so. So
cool.
If I'm coming back as Gil or Sean or Grant again, I'm all good with that.
So you mentioned Force Ghosts and stuff, so that leads on to my next question. So it seems that you're like one big happy family. Do you get to see much of the cast these days? And we keep hoping that maybe you'll pop up as an Imperial Senate in Ashoka or something, which would be cool.
No, listen, I'm a huge fan artistically of Rosario, huge fan of personally of Rosario. She's a phenomenal human being in every aspect of her life. That if my ultimate dream would be some small anything in a Star Wars movie, series, whatevs, just to be a part of that world would be great. I mean, I've had interactions obviously with Mark Hamill being in Kevin's movies, and obviously Carrie Fisher being in it, and a few others, and obviously now Rosario being a Jedi in Ahsoka. I would love to be a part of it, even if it's some sort of campy merchant, whatever, somewhere that'd be funny, just so a little nod to Kevin.
Yeah, because they did that kind of like in because Kevin was in some of the newer Star Wars movies as well, wasn't he? Same like Daniel Craig and some other actors like is dressed up as stormtroopers and things. You could just
right.
Even
right.
like Simon Pegg was like the dude in the first one as well. Like,
yeah, anybody who was around early in the 70s when the first or in the mid 70s when the first one came out in 77 and onward, to be a part of that and to have an action figure. I mean, obviously now I have a pop finally, and the in-action figures from the cartoon, and then Diamond selected a series of action figures. But to have an actual Star Wars figure of something I did.
Oh, it's a dream.
So I'm looking at you, J.J. Abrams. I'm looking at you, John.
Favreau.
What am I looking? Favreau. Yeah. And I'm looking at you, Kathleen Kennedy.
I think Favreau has stepped out, but Dave Filoni is.
Dave Filoni is the man.
Yeah, Dave Filoni has stepped out.
Yeah.
Come on, Dave. Put a Jersey guy in it. Let's do
it. That's who you gotta pray to now. Filoni is basically the new god of Star Wars.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, the best thing so far has been the Andor, which I just can't wait
Yeah,
for the
Andor was
next season.
excellent. It was really good. Oh, really
And Ahsoka finished incredibly strong, and I look forward to see where that takes us.
good. Yeah.
And then the Book of Boba Fett. There's so many open ends that you can do with the Book of Boba Fett. So
It
we'll
still
see
hasn't
what
confirmed
happens.
a second season yet.
Yeah, they still haven't. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the book is cool. So, John, you're next up. Question, shoot. Or unless Sean's got a question, you got a question, boss?
I do. It kind of builds on the last question. With you guys being such what seems like a very kind of close little family, do you have any memories, something that happened on set that you remember that you will always sort of keep with you?
I mean, every movie, and I say this a few times when I'm at the Q&As at cons, like when we get together to make movies with Kevin, it's like going to your favorite summer camp. When you were in school. Now, my family could never afford me to go to camp, so I just wandered the streets. So but I can imagine it would be like kids from all different schools getting together for 4 weeks up in the woods or whatever, and you have the greatest fun of your life for those 4 weeks. That's kind of what filming with Kevin is like, and interact, working with Jay and Jeff and Marilyn and Scott Schiaffo and obviously. Rosario and Ben and Matt and Jason Lee and Jeremy London and all the cats. It's just a lot of fun that we laugh a lot on set. Jay is like the court jester on a set and always wants to make sure we're all having fun. And so he'll do like dollar days where everybody puts $1 in a box and you write your name on it. And at the end of the day, they'll pull out $1, and you usually collect on a set like $300 to $400 and dollars or $5 to win, the whole box of cash, things like that. Or they'll have catering make a gigantic donut, and someone, if they can eat it all in one sitting, can get $100 and diabetes probably. It's things like that make it a lot of fun. Jay was into pranks on Clerks 2. He used to prank or try to prank Rosario each time. So things like that are a lot of fun. Even when we're on the road, it continues kind of when we're on the road at these cons. We'll goof with Jay or we'll goof with whoever, just to fuck with them.
Cool. Good question.
So, what have you ever kept anything? I mean, you mentioned that you kept your wardrobe from the first movie because it was your clothes and a couple of like smocks and stuff from Clerks 2. But have you ever kept any of the props? Like, Kevin's not really a giant prop kind of guy for his movies, but
he's putting out something special.
There you go. There's your one ball. This is the hot ball.
Is that the one you scored the winning goal with?
This is the one from Clerks 3. Yes. Yeah. So I have that. I have the Randall's script that I always kept reading. I have that. I have a bunch of things here and there. The sweater from the third movie that I collapse in. I when they were commissioning it to have it made, because they wanted to match it exactly like the one I had in the first movie, which got destroyed when we made the first movie because they tore it open and poured chocolate syrup on it to make it look like blood from the original ending of the original Clerks. Spoiler alert. So when they had it remade by a person who knits, I was like, oh, well, you guys destroyed my first one, so I get to keep this one. And it's the softest sweater. Oh my God, it's so luxurious. Anyway, so I got that. I got a couple of the hockey smocks from the third movie, rather. A couple of the movie smocks from the second movie. I have there's a destroyed scene we did a scene in the first film where Randall wants to borrow Dante's car and he goes to a Better Big Choice video. Yeah. There was a scene shot with Vince Pereira where he plays the ultimately courteous and helpful clerk, like the complete anti-Randall. And that scene was shot, but unfortunately the mag that hold the film in the camera had a slight split in it, and it exposed the entire film.
Oh,
So they realized that after shooting it that they didn't get the scene, and we only had the store access to that store for like an hour or two, and so we never shot it. So I just kept that whole spool of film, but I also have the original can of shoe polish that the sign you see above in behind Andy. Yeah, that one. That was made with. So I have the can of the shoe polish from the first
That's
one.
pretty cool.
All my original clothes. So the overshirt, which I actually wore in the other movies, as you see up there. I still have the Doc Martens, the high top Doc Martens that I'm wearing, the pants, and the House of Pain T-shirt underneath it. I have all of that.
did you keep those knowing that at some point, if that it was going to be such a popular film, that they would be, you know, cool collectibles?
No, I kept them because it was my daily clothes, sir. They were just my clothes. I wore a House of Pain shirt. I used to wear that, and I used to take my pants and peg them into my high top Doc Marten boots. That pretty much that would have been me. The look of Dante pretty much was me. And it's funny because Kevin had asked me to shave my Van Dyke off before filming, like a week before. And I was like, okay, sure. And I did, and I came into rehearsal, and he was like, ooh. You look very young without that. How long would it take you to grow that back? I'm like, hey, that's my face, sir. So I was able to grow it back in time to shoot the film. So that's the type of things, you know, clothing wise or prop wise. I mean, I have all my original scripts. I have the original script from first Clerks with all my notes in it. I have the script from the second Clerks. Pretty much I have all my scripts from all of my movies that I have. So.
Cool.
That's always fun to go through and just flip through a script and, you know, see what the notes are and stuff like that.
That's cool. That's like having.
Cool.
I keep sketchbooks of a lot of the stuff we draw and design and stuff. So I've got like tons of sketchbooks kicking about. It's kind of like that. You go back through and it's almost like just going back through and looking at your notes and what you've drawn and things. It's kind of cool and
right.
That kind of.
And the thing about films is, you know, even with films, when watching the first film or whatever, there are times I'll watch it and you know, I kind of like, I wish we could have taken the other take instead of this take. I thought I did better then, or whatever. And so you always kind of see, because on film it lives forever, or in this case, if you're making jerseys or whatever, they live forever. It's the type of thing that sometimes, like, ooh, as an artist, you always want to tinker. You can
There's plenty of those.
You can see why Lucas is always trying to tinker with improve the other movies.
So I've got more questions. So outside Clerks trilogy, what's your favourite Kevin Smith movie and why?
I love Dogma. I mean, it's not the Clerks trilogy, but it's the Views universe. I like the writing in Dogma. Being a Irish Catholic myself, I get the whole run of it. The questioning of faith, the people looking for redemption in the Bartleby and Loki characters. I think it's one of the best written scripts. I know Chasing Amy is a really great written script with a very heartfelt story and got him a nomination from the Spirit Awards.
It's a shame he doesn't own the rights to Dogma, because it is one of my favorite movies as well.
Well, I know for many years, it was personally owned by Harvey Weinstein. Like, he personally owned the rights. Certain things have happened in a couple of years, and he's been incarcerated, and so his estate is being sued left and right by victims, and he's got lawyers to pay. So he was selling properties he owns off to pay these kind of issues, and Paramount finally was able to step in and buy the rights to Dogma. So now Paramount owns Dogma. I've been told there's been thoughts about doing a reprinting of Dogma, perhaps in 4K or Blu-ray or whatever, with a new audio commentary track recorded and maybe some new behind the scenes kind of stuff with Kevin.
I wonder if that'll give a chance to do a sequel to it, because he couldn't do it as long as Weinstein had it. But
correct. I can see Paramount cooperating for something like that. That would be awesome to see that.
There's a market for it for sure.
There's definitely a market for it.
I mean, their streaming
think
service as well. They could release it on their streaming service quite straight to streaming if they needed to, or movie, or in the cinema.
Yeah, and I think Kevin, as a writer, everything he writes is another mature. He's maturing as a filmmaker and has more to tell, and it's usually whatever is in his life at that moment is what he likes to film. So yeah, I'd love to be a part of it. I mean, I can't wait to work on Mallrats too. That should be pretty hilarious. So we'll see. We'll see. I have we're all getting together on a cruise in February. The end of February, we're going to the Bahamas, and we're going to read a couple of his scripts on the cruise. So if people want to come to that, I mean that information. If you go to cruiseskew.com, there's tons of stuff, and there's even a comedy writing seminar, all sorts of stuff. Plenty of room. Come on, I'm hosting 2 pub crawls. I'm going to do my podcast, the Ohala Rant. So it'll be a lot of fun. So if you want to get out, if you especially live in the northeast of America, you want to get down to some sunshine, come on down.
Sean, have you got another question? Or should we keep going around?
You got another one, Sean?
Yeah, I've got one. So Brian, how did the whole? It's kind of a 2-in-1 here. How did the whole idea of ball hockey on a rooftop come to be? And as a Canadian, I've played hockey, I think, pretty much everywhere. I can't say I've ever played hockey on a rooftop. And what's that like?
Well, first of all, it's a lot smaller than how we edit it in the film. There's, refrigeration units on that roof. There's pipes that come up from, for ventilation. So we framed it in a way where it looked like you had enough room to even roller skate, never mind, rollerblade on it, never mind just being in your shoes. The first time we shot in March, April, so it was cooler weather, it was fine. For Clerks 3, it was like August going in September, and it was the hottest day that we ever shot. I think it was like 100 almost. But we only had 2 days left, so we couldn't push the day back to try to do it a different day because we weren't going to have the weather to do it. So we just pushed through it, and it was the brightest day ever. And since we did it the first time in '93 to this time in 2022, or 21 rather, it was reflective paint was painted on the roof, which nowadays helps a roof not get so hot. It keeps your cooling bills down. But anyway, what happens is the sun reflects off that silvery whitish paint and is like literally holding one of those tanning mirrors. And then we're wearing black jerseys and then running around. I was getting slightly like spots in my eyes. We were drinking Gatorades, obviously, and stuff like that, but it still was just way too much. So I just didn't tell anybody. I'm like, that might be getting dizzy. I was like, let's just push through. Whatever you got to do, let's do it. And then we were done. It's fun, I would assume, because there are certain tennis courts that are on roofs in certain communities in New York City that kids in the winter, then obviously the nuts are removed and they'll set up hockey nets. I've done that. Which is kind of cool because it's a tennis court that they've made into a small rink. It's if you have a stable surface up on a roof,
if it's flat, you can play ball hockey anywhere.
And if you have permission, you can play ball hockey anywhere for the most part. Just don't shoot it off the roof.
They did something in downtown Toronto, I want to say sometime in the last 5 years, and it was a hockey rink at the top of a skyscraper. And I was supposed to go to that event, and I really can't even remember what happened. For some reason, I wasn't able to.
No, it was a temporary. It was like a pop-up.
Temporary. I think it was either Molson or Budweiser put this on as some sort of promo. And I missed the opportunity to do it, but I thought that would be interesting to play hockey on the top
with
of
that
the building.
view, with a view of the city like that. Yeah. I mean, it's got to be. I've yet to go to one of the Stadium Series games. I think I'm going to be going to the Ranger Devil one coming up, or not, Ranger Islander one coming up in February. those look like they should be a lot of fun. Not all stadiums, though, I gotta say, are like when I see it done in certain baseball stadiums where the seats are way the hell out in the outfield.
Yeah,
And
yeah, you're like really far
only
away from the ring.
people, yeah, only people in the infield get a good view, and then the rest all the way out in the other seats are terrible.
I
But if
just
you do it in football arenas, like I think if you do it in football arenas, that's your perfect
Yeah,
sweet spot
yeah.
because they're made exactly like the.
It's like if you did it over here, if you did they did it in the UK, like say in Wembley or something, it's perfect shape for it. It literally just rings right in the middle. Everyone's around. It's like a
Right.
normal rink in general. But like I say, in the baseball ones where they're so far out in the outfield, and you might as well just imagine people are just having a party. They can't even see the puck, can't even see the game.
Right.
They're just like we're just partying, getting drunk and whatever else, all freezing.
Because they've done it. They've done it both in New York City, at Citi Field, which is the Mets baseball field, and Yankee Stadium, obviously for Yankees. And I always watch it. And I knew friends who went to those games and bought tickets and spent like $500. And I'm like, look where you're sitting, bro. Like, I'm at home with a nice drink and on an HD TV, and I see the game perfectly. And, it's all good.
You're talking about playing hockey in the black Clerks jersey. Andy was pretty excited when he went to the theater to watch the movie first time, and he got to see clothing he designed being in a movie.
It's pretty cool. I was going to come to that.
And in the credits.
Yeah, and in the credits as well. It's cool. I was sitting with a friend. I was saying to my friend Spencer, who's a huge Kevin Smith fan and loves your work, and for the first 5 minutes, he's like nudging me, like, oh, you did that, and I'm like, yeah, I know, man, this is cool. I'm just trying to drink it in, and then like as watching that, like you were saying about playing hockey on the roof, I'm going, logistically, that'd be really difficult with that many people in that short space trying to shoot a ball. Like it'd be quite hard. So my head's going to like how the hockey game would work in that side of space. Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
But I mean, even if there was no equipment on the roof and everything was nice and flat, you can see the width of the store. That little jut out is the end of the building thereof. And that little jut out, that is it. That is the width. Because there's a dividing wall on that side. There's a little lip that divides the next shop over there. And then obviously the end of the shop is the end of the shop. And so even if you try to, you're only in a space that's maybe 20 feet.
Yeah.
And I think the store is maybe 80 feet.
Yeah, I can imagine a lot of people.
The length you could get, but not the width is going to.
I can imagine a lot of people got sticks in their shins in that game.
Yeah. Well, as you see, like we're all just batting the ball trying to find it, and you got to make sure you're not shooting. You can't shoot for the upper corners because if you miss, you see it's going off the roof.
Yeah. So my next question, follow-up question, I've got another question related to that in a second. Was that winning shot cut, or did you actually score that winning shot like that?
We had a series of me shooting at the net, and there was a lot of just wides. We had like 7 balls that the PA off camera just kept rolling another ball to me, and then they had someone on the far end off camera catching whatever went by the net. So I think that was like try number 5. I want to say is what finally went in. So it was literally just like, we're going to do a series. We're going to roll balls at you as if it's being passed. And you're going to take shots. It was like, ooh, wide right. Ooh, wide left. Ooh, just off the crossbar. And then, boom, upper corner, right near where the camera lens was, because that's what he wanted. He's like, shoot in this general area. The camera's here, and shoot at least, I have the framing at least this, get that close. And so that's what it was. So, so it was about probably the 5th shot I got it.
So then the related questions what would your personal ice hockey team be called? And if we were to design the jersey for it, what would be on the jersey design?
It's funny because I work with a comic book publisher named Mess Bucket Comics, and they have a comic called Donnybrook. And Donnybrook, I don't know if I still have it here. Yeah, Donnybrook is a hockey comic, and He's working with like Darren McCarty from the Detroit Red Wings. It's a Michigan-based comic book company. And so that's the series there, Donnybrook. And
I
so
love
he
it.
had reached out to me a couple of years ago to ask me if I would be a owner in his hockey team. And so he's like, you would own the New York team. And what would it be? And so I said, ooh, why don't we do the Hell's Kitchen Heathens? Now, Hell's Kitchen is a part of Manhattan that's kind of rough, right in Midtown there. So you see the skyline and Hell's Kitchen. And I told him it has to be in the New York Ranger colors. So we did that. And so I forget what company he's having make his jerseys. It's a Canadian. It's either a Michigan or a Canadian company. I think it's a Michigan company. Now I think about it. That makes them sublimation wise. They don't do the quality stitching and stuff like that. They do a really great quality sublimation. So he made a bunch of those for me. So as far as another hockey team, I'd have to think about it.
Like
Just
there's an
because
entire VSQ league.
I know there's a whole view of
Yeah,
Stu League
yeah.
because someone had the Ottawa 37s
Yeah.
where they had my face on it, or the Smottawa 37s or something like that. I have that jersey up in my closet as well.
Are they still doing that after Walter Gresby passed? Because I know he was a big part of that as well, right?
Yes, he was. That I don't know. COVID kind of threw a bunch of things, off to the side.
Yeah.
And the main members of that whole group, we are all getting older. But that's that. I know they have a Facebook group, and they kind of update it from time to time. I think it's
something we could
to a
boot up
skew.
at some point.
Huh?
I said, I wonder if that's something we could boot up at some time.
Yeah, I would. They would love to. I mean, I know that the Ming Chen had the Ming something or another, based like on the LA Kings look. I think it was the Ming Kings or something like that. But yeah, those would be great. I would have to think about what it would be. I mean, I do have a podcast that I do things that I have a logo for, but otherwise, yeah, I'd have to think about it. To be honest with you.
Love
All right,
to-
I got.
love to get Andy a plane ticket.
What was that? What was that?
I said, we'll have to get Andy a plane ticket for the tournament.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
I've got. I know you do a lot of stage work as well.
Yep.
What so far has been your favorite role that you've done, and what's been your least favorite role?
The one I've done the most is productions of Dracula, but I don't play Dracula. I play Renfield, the lunatic assistant, and I've done that role 3 times. That was a lot of fun doing that. I did a production called Wait Until Dark opposite Marilyn Gigliotti, even before we did Clerks. That's a great drama, suspense thriller. There was a movie made with Alan Arkin in the late 60s called Wait Until Dark. So I played Mr. Rote, the same Alan Arkin role. Quentin Tarantino had a revival of the Broadway show like 10, 15 years ago where he played that role. That was a fun one. I've done Godspell musical, was a lot of fun, where I played Judas. There's a bunch of plays that are really great. I've done original works out of the New Jersey Repertory Theater out of West Long Branch, New Jersey. There's a playwright by the name of Mike Foley. A lot of his works I've done. I've done Irish theater, so Dancing at Lunasa, Stones in His Pockets, a lot of things like that, where I can get my Irish heritage and work on my Irish accent and stuff like that. So, and then as far as roles that I hate, it takes a lot for me to go like, God damn it, why am I doing this? I usually am pretty good at editing, what I want to do and not want to do up front. So I got to say, when it comes to plays, I work with friends a lot who will ask me, hey, do you want to be part of a Few Good Men? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it, or things like that. So, I did The Crucible. There's many a great American plays and playwrights and other playwrights from Ireland and England, and Europe, that put out some really good work. So I don't have a hatred one, but I do enjoy. Really,
Some actors do. They have roles that they'll never do again.
yeah, and I've heard those stories, and I hear why, and I get it. Sometimes they'll never do the role again because they were on stage 90% of the time. They couldn't take a bathroom break, or so much to memorize because
They
that's the
spent
thing about
4 hours in a makeup chair.
correct, or heavy prosthetics. Yeah, even when I did Vulgar, I was in a makeup chair for 2.5 hours putting all that makeup on, um, and it can be taxing when you're doing it day in and day out.
Cool. So, John, do you want to pick some questions from the chat? I do have. I did read this. I did read this comment, which made me smile when you were talking about Star Wars earlier. And it's someone.
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, the Star Wars moment would be a great, whereas Dante's called to do construction on the Death Star as a contractor, and then someone put. You can imagine if the Death Star had a sign on it saying, "I assure you are quite operational."
I think a stormtrooper say, "I'm not even supposed to be here today."
I think that question should get something because it was a good one. Both of those were good ones. It made me smile.
Well, I remember when Finn talks to Han Solo, and Han Solo's like, "Well, how do you know where the power cables are?"
Yeah.
Shut down the thing. He's like, "Oh, I was in sanitation." Sanitation. It's funny. Speaks. Randall goes, "Do you think the average stormtrooper knows anything about plumbing or to install a toilet main?" And I thought that was like, oh, that's a weird.
I remember when
subconscious nod.
Yeah, I remember when I first watched that. I first picked up Kirk's. I think there's a store over here called HMV, which they used to do lots of this is going way back, like when videos were a thing, right? So they used to do like video sales and stuff. And I keep walking past and the sales, and I keep seeing it. I was like, right, I'm going to get that. And so I got it, watched it, and when that scene came up, it's just like, obviously, as everyone else probably was like laughing because it was like, yeah, that's a question. That is a good question to that whole thing. How was the Death Star built? They must have brought contractors in, but then you kind of see them lean on that a bit in Andor, where they're talking about they start to lean on it a bit more. Yeah, and it's like. And they started to move into it now, and it's like all those years ago when it was just mentioned as a kind of a funny joke is now like actually these things have been happening. They do get contracts and they do get these people in the building stuff. And it's
that original Clerks, it's so popular. I got to imagine that the people who write for Star Wars now have definitely seen it. They probably thought the same thing. It's like, why did nobody ever talk about this? Mm-hmm. Like in The Mandalorian, when we finally see how they use a bathroom, like there was never a bathroom ever shown in any Star Wars. And then in The Mandalorian, you're like, that's the vac tube where somebody goes, you don't see it operate, but at least we know that bathrooms exist in Star Wars. Somebody had that question and finally got the chance to put it on screen.
Well, that's the thing. Disney is in such need of content to constantly fill their channels, their movies, and now streaming, where, people like Kathleen Kennedy and Filoni and everybody can expand on these stories. Now, I hear of tons of ideas in the Star Wars universe, that just get started in an idea stage and then they just get dropped. And we're not going to follow along like that. Like before the Book of Boba Fett, I used to always joke at Q&As and sometimes when I do stand up, where I was like, I want them to make a movie about Boba Fett, like in his early years. And I joked, I want it, though, in the style of, Dog the Bounty Hunter, where it's a view of a crew following Boba Fett as he's trying to pick up bounties. He talks to the camera, and then he's like, go get him, Django! Go get him, Django! That kind of thing. And you see the blonde hair sticking out of the bottom of his helmet.
There was a comic one, wasn't there, about because they obviously went on the premise that he got out of the Sarlacc pit. But I think it was a comic written a few years ago where he got out the Sarlacc pit and it followed him. He escaped him from that. But by the end of the comic, he ended up back in the Sarlacc pit. So he kind of went full circle. He got out, but ended up back there anyway. It was like that kind of thing. I was like, I hadn't expected the Book of Boba Fett to end. It was like, oh, he's back in the Sarlacc pit. Oh, wow.
And so that's why when we say oh, would you love to be part of the Star Wars world? Absolutely. There's so many ways to be a part of it. Just fit me in anywhere there, Coach. Put me in the game, Filoni.
Yeah, there's so many places you could easily just fit, even if it was just for one line or something. Even if they don't see your face, but you get to have one line, it's still pretty cool.
I'm happy with that. If they give me the opportunity to expand, that'd be helpful. That'd be super helpful.
All right, so I got 3 questions from people that have asked.
These are ones for prizes.
Yeah, so
Questions
we're
win
doing
prizes.
$25.50 and a free jersey.
Ooh.
So the first one, what's the craziest item you've ever been asked to autograph?
Ooh, craziest item. Okay, if anybody watching right now, if you have kids within earshot, you may want to shoo them out of the office or put some headphones in right now. So Kevin used to hold his own little film festivals in Red Bank, New Jersey, called Vulgarthons, where we would show Kevin's movies, some of the movies that Vince Pereira or Brian Johnson made, or Malcolm Ingram. And then there'd be meet and greets with fans, and fans would bring things to sign and stuff. And so I was signing a bunch of things while waiting in the lobby of the White Street Cinemas, which is now the Count Basie Cinema on White Street in Red Bank. And he goes, "Hey, man, I'd love for you to sign something." I'm like, "Sure." And I'm thinking, oh, it's a VHS or it's a DVD or a hat or a shirt. And he pulls out a 2-foot black dildo. I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I can sign this." I'm like, I guess. I'm like, "You got to hold it, though." And so literally, I was like this with the Sharpie, like, and then literally just threw this Sharpie right into the garbage.
Photos of you holding a 2-foot black dildo would have been.
There is.
Never let you put that down.
No, there is. I might be able to find it. If I find it, I'll bring it up. But I'll tell the story as we continue. So, so years go by. Like, it's freaky. Like, oh my god, like that was the weirdest thing ever. So years go by, and I'm thinking, whatever. I'm working on another movie. I'm sitting. It's in Philadelphia. I'm sitting waiting for a setup. I'm wondering, just chatting with people on set. And one of the producers come over, and then he's like, "Hey," and I'm like, "Hey, Tommy, how are you?" I'm like, "Good, things are good." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "How's they treating you well?" I'm like, "Yep, things are great. Thank you for asking." He goes, "Have you gotten something to eat?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did. I'm good." He goes, "By the way, we've met before." I'm like, "Oh, really?" He goes, "Yeah. I met you at a Vulgarthon." I'm like, "Ah, cool. Those are great. I wish we could do those again." I'd be saying to him, because Kevin had stopped making them for a while. And he goes, "Yeah, I had you sign something." I'm like, "Oh, really?" He goes, "Yeah. Do you remember the guy who brought you the 2-foot black dildo?" I'm like, "Oh my, yes." He goes, "That was me." I'm like, "Oh my god, oh wow, really?" And now I'm thinking, "Oh my god, what kind of movie did I just get myself into?" Looking around like, what am I, is there going to be some sort of bedroom scene here? So no, it wasn't. It was
You didn't remember his face because you didn't look him in the eyes at the time?
Pretty much. I was just so taken aback by it. I was like, what the hell is this all about? Let me see if I can find this photo. It would be just absolutely hilarious.
So that question was from Terry Canning, so he's going to get the $25 gift.
Right.
There you go, Terry. That's definitely a $25 question. That's for sure.
All right. So for the next one, I've got Greg Larson. He says everybody loves bloopers and breaks during filming. What was the hardest scene in any movie to shoot because it was too funny?
Too funny.
I imagine there's a lot of cracking people up on a Kevin Smith project. So
Yes.
What's taken like 48 takes to get it right because nobody could stop laughing?
God, there's a lot of those. We couldn't do a lot of takes when we first did the first movie because it was real film, and Kevin just couldn't afford burning through many takes. So you had to get all of your laughter out like immediately. Like, you can't be wasting his time and his film by burning through takes, but for laughing especially. So we would get all the laughter out that we wanted, um, and and then go on with the film, like 2 or 3 takes. God, what was like so funny that we just couldn't get through a take? I don't know, man. That's a good question. I can tell you the hardest thing I ever filmed was in Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, where I'm strapped to a vivisection table with real live monkeys trying to cut, trying to
Cut out your brain.
my brain open, where I'm screaming, "No, I'm supposed to be here today." That was the hardest thing because they got all freaked out because there was this super slime, special slimy stuff on the brain to make it look more real. And it kind of was web like. So when the monkey would touch it, it would follow it. And monkeys don't like that at all. They freak out. So they got agitated. When they get agitated, they like eat things. Like they get attacked once it's agitating them. And this was around the time that poor woman in Connecticut got her face eaten and her ears and her fingers from her pet monkey. So we were like, oh, So and I'm literally strapped to the table. I can't. If I wanted to, I couldn't. My head was strapped on. So
Back to Kevin wanting to see you suffer.
yeah, once again, torturing Dante. So after a while, they said you have to wipe that off. And the special effects guy, now it looks like cheap plastic. And they're all, meanwhile, I'm still strapped. And the other makeup guy's like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. You need water?" "No, I'm good." And I'm listening to the conversation and how they're complaining, like, "Well, what are we going to do?" And so finally I was like, "Hey, do you have any honey at the craft services?" Craft services guy was like, "Yeah, we do. We have that little bear." And I said, "What about that?" And the monkey wrangler was like, "Oh, they love honey." And the special effects guy was like, "All right, let's see." And that golden honey color actually made the brain look a little more bloody. So he was like, "All right, let's do it. We're going to do like one series of takes. Just keep repeating it again and again, and we'll let the monkeys go." And that's what they did. And so I'm supposed to be here today. With the monkey then coming in and licking the top of my head, which made it in the film, but that's what happened during the cut. So
Right.
I found the photo, and my measurements are wrong. It's probably a little bit bigger, but here it is. Back to our first question. Boom. Funny follow up. That man is a producer of award-winning documentaries. He did the one about Bill Murray, the Bill Murray stories. He's done one about the Ghostbusters. So Tommy Avalone is his name. He's a great producer and filmmaker. I highly recommend, if you look him up on IMDb, you can see, if you especially look up the Bill Murray stories and you see Tommy Avalone, that's the guy you want to look up and watch all of his documentaries. All of his documentaries are really good, really funny. But back in the day, he was hanging around.
It looks like
funny follow-up to the story. I asked him, "Hey, whatever happened to that 2-foot dildo?" He goes, "I don't know. I lost it." I was like, "Lost it? In who?" He's like, "I don't know." I said, "Well, kids, there you go. One day you could be as famous as me, and you will have a 2-foot dildo with your name on it out there."
It looked like a graboid from Tremors.
All right. So the final.
Oh, who was that?
Final question. I got to get out at 3. I have another question.
Who was that from, John?
Benny S. Last question. Did you ever expect while working on the original Clerks that it would have the cultural impact that it has, so much that it would be added to the Library of Congress?
Absolutely not. I thought I would just get literally a VHS copy of what we had filmed that spring. But thankfully, through the wherewithal and foresight of Kevin and Scott and Dave Klein, the whole summer editing it together, literally cut and taping, film negative to put through a steam back and edit the right way. And we were able to have someone of an angel by the gentleman in the name of Bob Hawke, who first saw the film at the New York Independent Feature Film Market. recommended it to Sundance, recommended it to all the independent and mainstream film community. And from there, it went on to connect with people. It was the most stolen and unreturned VHS in Blockbuster's history, and which was great for our sales because they had to keep replacing it. But that was our fan base, man. A bunch of cheap thieves. We, in promotion of the film, Miramax decided when they had Woodstock '94 up in upstate New York, after the bands were off the stage by like midnight, they would show movies, and Clerks was one of the movies. So technically, we played Woodstock. Seeing how it has impacted on people, seeing how it's been inducted into the Library of Congress, which means, I guess, when we have to get into the bunker when the planet finally is destroyed, one of the selections that whatever 200 people who are going to repopulate the Earth get to watch is my funny bone ass getting abused.
Love it. Whose question was that one, John?
I sent you all the names.
Oh, have you? Okay, I'll check my messages.
Brian
Congratulations, you won a
Oh.
jersey. What
was
jersey has he won?
It was Benny S.
All right, sorry, wrong way around. I got it wrong way around. Let me. I'll say that. You keep talking. You keep talking. You keep talking.
Brian, thank you so much for doing this.
Not at all, Sean. Thank you guys so much. I definitely want to work with you guys in the future. So, let's do something together. Get those Randall jerseys out.
Yes.
People are asking. Like, I like Dante. Don't get me wrong, but I want to have Randall too. So
You know what? It's already on the presses. But if we ever can get our shit together, and we've been talking about it for years about doing this thing called the Gathering of the Geeks. Loosely, we say it's going to happen in Jersey, where we're going to meet up, probably somewhere near where Kevin is, and a whole bunch of people are going 4 hours, have a nice meal together, a few drinks. If we ever do get that together, I really hope that we can somehow get you there.
absolutely, definitely keep me in that email chain then when you start banding about dates.
I absolutely will. And thank you so much. We are forever grateful. You're an awesome guy, and it was really nice chatting with you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been
thanks
great
for
to meet you.
guys.
Cheers, Brian.
Thank you, Andy. Have a good night.
Yes.
You, everybody out there, have a great holiday season. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever it is. Hopefully, we can get peace in this world one day. John, Andy, Sean, thank you guys for having me on your wonderful show. Let's definitely do this again later on at some
for
point,
sure.
and maybe do a live version in person in Jersey. Who knows?
That would be good. That would be good.
Love to.
Right.
Take care,
Cheers.